And welcome to the Under the Bus podcast. I'm your host, Merge, and I'm here with Clayton. Clayton, how are you doing, man?
I'm I'm doing good.
And today we are here with guest season is continuing, and we're here with special guest Jonathan Hernandez, better known for Lakers Legacy Pod. Jonathan, how are you doing today, man?
Boom, 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 boom. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am doing well. It is starting to heat up in LA, but it's also starting to heat up rumors-wise. We are, 16 days away from the draft, and then shortly after that, we're right into LeBron James, Paul George mode, so I'm ready.
Yeah, it's about that time. Twitter's on fire, more so for non-Warriors Cavs stuff than anything. But sort of starting off with that, I'm just really curious because it's one of the weirdest stories I've ever seen in the NBA, like ever. What's your whole take on the whole Brian Colangelo Twitter burner account thing?
Well, first, please follow my burner account at D-Lo Banks, which is an homage to D'Angelo Russell and Marcus Banks, who the Lakers fans always wanted for a long, long time. So that's my burner account. But with regards to the Colangelo stuff,
I'm gonna look that up right now.
No, I don't actually have it, but I may create it. I may create it right after this.
Do it.
But the Colangelo stuff runs like a parody of the Serial podcast to me. It's just so ridiculous. If you haven't watched American Vandal on Netflix, which is essentially a Serial podcast parody, this is a real life version of that because it's so stupid. So for me, it's hilarious. And the fact that, you know me, like secondhand, like I love Philadelphia. I'm kind of a closet Sixers fan, so I followed Trust the Process for a while now. And I know when the fan base got Brian Colangelo, they were not happy with it. They felt like the league kind of mandated that move to happen and ousted Hinkie unceremoniously and prematurely, in fact. So for them, this is kind of redemption for them to see this guy, whether or not it's him, whether it's his wife, whether it's his brother running these accounts, the fact that he's even linked to these accounts is incredible to me. And with regards to how it affects the Lakers in free agency, I know the Sixers still have the third best or maybe the third or fourth best odds to win the title next year. So I don't know. Vegas maybe thinks they may be getting a big free agent, but Woj said today on ESPN that the Sixers have interviewed both Colangelo and his wife for multiple hours, and they would have to make a decision soon. I don't know what that means, but it's perfect timing for the Lakers again, because the Sixers were the only real competitor and contender to get free agents outside of maybe the Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs, who still have the Kawhi situation to suss out. So any sort of turmoil for another team helps the Lakers, especially because the Sixers, it seemed like they had everything lining up for them perfectly. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, even though Ben Simmons kind of sputtered out at the end of the playoffs, they still had like a dynamic showing. And the fact that Marcus Fultz isn't even in that fold yet, and they're coming into this draft with do you guys remember what picks they have this draft? They have the number 10 pick from us, and then they have their own pick. But they can retool, they can use those picks to trade. It seemed like everything was going well for them. And then this Colangelo stuff comes out, and regardless of whether or not it's him, clearly these thoughts were, if it was his wife, then for sure they've talked about this stuff before. So she's only intimating what she's heard from him about these certain players, what he thought about Okafor, what he thought about Joel Embiid's injury. So none of this is good news, regardless of how you shake it. And so my overall thoughts is, one, it's funny, and two, it can only help the Lakers, So
Yeah, I'm honestly still surprised he's still with the organization. I think I said, when did we record with P? I think we recorded like 4 or 5 days ago, and I thought like he'd be gone within the hours. I'm surprised that he's even here still. But it definitely does help the Lakers free agency wide, just because even if he does stay, it's not a good look. It might even be better if he's gone for the Sixers and they try to get someone like David Griffin. But to talk on your the odds, I believe the Sixers still have the best odds for LeBron, which is, I'm assuming, why they're top 3, top 4 in title odds. But Clayton, I know you absolutely love this because it's just hilarious.
Oh yeah, no, I can't wait till he's gone, just because I I've got nothing to do with Philadelphia, but I was a fan of the process, and that was a lot of nonsense that Adam Silver was, obviously a huge part of that. So has anyone like questioned Silver about it? Like, I haven't seen anything about that. I mean, I've been really busy lately, but
I feel like LeBron has actually talked about more than Silver has, like, at all. I know LeBron made some backhand like insult towards it.
Yeah. And like, if that's obviously your biggest target, then that's kind of an issue.
That's true.
So I don't know. I can't really see if he's still in power, a team or a free agent looking at them as like a true destination just because of all that.
Yeah, I agree. They've sort of shot themselves in the foot with all of that.
I mean, if they make a change, then all bets are off. But with him, I think they're cooked.
Yeah,
I think the funniest part, sorry to jump in really quickly, the funniest part about all of this is the way that the Twitter community came together, and all of a sudden everyone was Sherlock Holmes, and they were looking at which school organizations were following his wife and what she was awarded. And it was all of this, like, it very much felt like a serial podcast. How Brian Colangelo be on a press conference talking about Embiid while Eric Jr. was tweeting on the side? Well, it could only happen if blah, 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 blah. And it was like so ridiculous, but it was very entertaining.
Did you get a chance to listen with Pete on?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Do you remember the line where he's like, if basketball took over like the Russian, investigation, they figure it out by the end of the week.
Yes. No, I totally agree for sure.
They're just, oh man, they're better detectives than real life detectives. It's incredible.
Oh, for sure.
Truly incredible.
Yeah. And that'll benefit the Lakers, and this is a good segue for what you're probably going to talk about in the offseason, because we've got so much like back channel stuff happening on the forums. It's crazy what's going on.
Yeah. I'm going to start this off by saying I'm like 1,000% more confident in the front office than I was about 18 months ago. It's insane how much more confidence I have in these guys. Just because initially the whole, we got Magic. What's Magic going to do? Is he just going to stay with old school and keep everything old school? But I've very much been enjoying how they've been maneuvering everything. The trade, the Isaiah Thomas, Jordan Clarkson trade. I mean, obviously that's working out extremely well right now, seeing how bad Jordan Clarkson has been. But with news today from Woj, it was more speculation than anything, but he was saying that the most obvious thing for Paul George would be to meet up with LeBron in Los Angeles, meet up before they sign and try to make out something for them to go to the Lakers. And I know everyone in Lakers Twitter got very excited, and then every Laker hater got very defensive on Twitter with no names, but they know who they are. So let's start. First, how confident are? First, did you think LeBron was a possibility before the playoffs compared to now, Jonathan?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think just because of, and Pete even mentioned it in your podcast, but all that stuff about the moves happening behind the scenes in the entertainment landscape, and not even just the basketball landscape. I mean, that was happening like 6 months ago. We were hearing rumors of that 6 months ago, and what he's trying to do with his studio, Space Jam 2, et cetera, et cetera. Like, can LeBron James play for another team and still have and build this media mogul empire in Los Angeles? Yeah, sure he can, but he's also entering a time where he's setting these things up, and he's about to become a free agent again. So if he wants the option of making life very, very easy for him, he has that available to him. And so he has 2 houses in Brentwood, and maybe not in Brentwood, but he has a house in Brentwood and another house somewhere in LA. So, I think LeBron is past the point of, if he does leave Cleveland, which I think is more of the certainty than anything else, he is going to leave Cleveland. You then have to wonder, okay, well, is LeBron ready to put behind the mercenary aspect of his career that he's had, going to Miami, going back to Cleveland? And I think at age 34 this upcoming year, I think he will be, so I think his next team, he'd want to kind of like lay his roots down and kind of ride off into the sunset with that one team. If he went to Houston, it would feel like another Miami Heat to me, and like how many years is he going to do that? If he goes to the Sixers, that still feels like a Miami Heat thing to me. If he goes to LA, you could envision, oh, he might just stay there and end his career there, you know? And it wouldn't be too weird of a move because LA has a history of getting guys to come like late in their careers, you know, like Wilt Chamberlain. So, so yeah, I felt like things have been leading up to this moment. All the stuff happening with Kobe Altman, David Griffin, and the playoffs, and them making bad moves, and Kyrie Irving getting traded, that only exacerbated things, and it's allowed for this crazy snowball to keep on rolling, man.
Yeah,
so,
it's absurd. Like I was a person who thought maybe 5% chance LeBron comes to the Lakers. He'll probably meet with us, but probably not a great possibility. He'll probably just stay in Cleveland or something like that. But the more I've been watching these playoffs, the more I watch LeBron literally dragging these guys to the finals. And the icing on the cake was seeing JR blow a 51-point LeBron performance away. And at that moment, I thought, this guy's gone. I don't see why he would go back to that team. They're capped out with bad players. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, Tristan Thompson. They're making a ton of money next year. I know Kevin Love's making a ton of money next year.
With Kevin Love, Tristan, J.R. Smith, Jordan Clarkson, and George Hill. So like 5 guys in the next 2 years are going to combine for, I think someone said like $175 million. So you're looking at what, 80 plus million a year, like 87.5 million just next year on those 5 guys. And Kevin Love, I still think can be, you know, he has his moments, like a 3, you know, your number 3 option or something like that.
Yeah.
But with everyone else, you know, JR, they kind of had to pay JR. They kind of had to pay Tristan. They had, you know, had to do some of these moves, not necessarily that for Clarkson or Hill. But speaking of Hill, he like fell off a cliff after Utah. But you know, they're just so cash strapped in just those guys. And whew, yeah, I mean, like I said, they had to do it, but man, I would hate to be I'd hate to be there.
Yeah. And Clayton, I know you are a guy who was very adamant that LeBron wouldn't even think about coming here. Have you changed your mind as of right now?
I would say there's like a 35-40% chance. Like if we're gonna go like full like pie 100%, I would say 35 to 40. I think that's a good chance considering, you know, I think he now has an easier time leaving Cleveland just because everyone's like, holy crap, this team sucks. And just all this other stuff, you know, and he hates the owner, and, you know, the owner keeps doing stuff with management and all the other crap. So I would probably do like a 40 LA, like 30 Cleveland, and something like I'm don't even know if I'm adding up to 100, but then like a 20 Philly, and then like I don't really see the Houston threat because I don't know how they're going to clear the cap.
Yeah, they have no assets really to give up.
I mean, like, yeah, you could do a sign and trade, but that requires them taking on like Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon's good, but I mean,
Gordon's good. I mean, he's okay. I mean, like, but that's not really anything special. Anderson is just, I mean, everyone knew that was a bad deal the moment it was signed.
Yeah.
And so I guess like the other option is just trying to sign and trade Capella, and that would be stupid, I think.
Yeah, because they need Capella, I feel like.
Yeah. So I think it would just be really difficult for that to happen. And they can't sign him outright, because then they'd still have to make all those moves in the first place. And then you'd have to rely on CP3 taking a massive pay cut as well.
And if the rumors are true with him, that he's not really wanting to take that pay cut.
Yeah,
that's really gonna.
I didn't look too terribly much into whatever the report was, because I don't see him taking much less anyways. So yeah, I don't really see Houston as this threat that everyone else does.
Yeah, I agree. Same with Paul George, which I kind of want to transition over to. Jonathan, you've been one of the louder people on Lakers Twitter who, like, you're pretty much thinking like Paul George is going to be a Laker, right?
I'm kind of trolling people, but yes. And the reason why I troll people is because I think for the first time this summer, you know, the stakes are high and all that stuff, but I think we're just feeling so good about the young core and how we've set ourselves up that the worst case scenario is what? We keep the young core and we don't get these guys. So for me, it's just like, I have the ability and the freedom to troll people and say Paul George is coming, because if he doesn't come, oh well, too bad. You know, like I don't even know what it feels like to have Paul George in the first place. All I know is we're not going to lose any of the young core and we're just in a position to add. So, you know, Woj talked about how, you know, given that the Lakers have the ability to easily make or clear space for two max cap guys and superstars, that Paul George and LeBron James will have some conversations. I was talking to Tommy, my co-host, about this earlier, and I asked him, do you think he's saying this in terms of him just connecting the dots and making that conjecture, or do you think he actually knows stuff? And I think both of us came to the conclusion that regardless of whether he's just connecting the dots or whether he knows stuff, I think he has to say it in that way, if that makes any sense. Like, he's not going to say, by the way, guys, I've heard that LeBron James and Paul George are definitely going to talk, because then it sounds like tampering. You know, I don't know how they police that, but it sounds like that. So from both of our ends, I think he knows what's going on, and he probably knows that they're definitely at least going to have a conversation. And it's not just he's connecting the dots, even though they're easy dots to connect, you know. But I think one thing that's changed in the last year or so with Pelinka and Magic is the communication lines with Woj have been super strengthened, and we as Lakers fans just know a lot more a lot sooner. So I think that's just what's happening here. For me, it's just like, no duh. Like like we kind of knew this would happen. I don't know why I know why people are freaking out just because it's Woj saying it, but he's not really saying anything new, even if he actually did know for a fact that they were going to meet. Like, we were going to hear about this in July, that LeBron James and Paul George were going to meet, or at least even have a conversation. It's just he's telling us, you know, about 20 days in advance. So yeah, for me, if we're putting percentages on it, my percentages for LeBron actually don't differ too much from Clayton's. It's probably 50% LeBron comes here. And a large part of that is like not even basketball related. And he has a cherry on top knowing that the Lakers are set up for that. Whether he wants to build with the young core or they have the flexibility to get him guys that he wants, the Lakers are set up for that. But yeah, 50% LeBron goes to the Lakers. I wouldn't even put Cleveland on the map, to be honest, because of all the stuff we mentioned, his relationship with the owner, Dan Gilbert going back to when he was a Cleveland Cavalier the first time, how tumultuous that was. The fact that Cleveland doesn't even have that good of a pick, you know, it's number 8. If they had like a top 3 pick or something, maybe then I could say they have a chance if they're able to swing something really crazy at the trade deadline. But at number 8, like the picks ranging from 7 to 18, you're pretty much all in the same stratosphere. And at that point, the Clippers probably have a better trade package for anything than the Cavs do. So they can't really entice LeBron with a crazy deadline trade unless they're packaging Kevin Love and the number 8 for something, you know? So I think they're handcuffed with what they can do to entice LeBron to stay. So 50% LeBron goes to LA, maybe 25% LeBron goes to Philly, 25% LeBron goes to Houston, and then, let's do 25% LeBron goes to Philly, and then the remaining percentages split it up between Houston and San Antonio or whatever. So
San Antonio has been a dark horse for me. The one thing I will say, the reason why I kind of do include Cleveland instead of just doing Philly for an East Coast or Eastern Conference team is because it's the Eastern Conference. You know, I think Philly makes more sense than Cleveland. But then also just that's home, that's this, it's that, and the other. But I see what you're saying. It's just I think that's the main reason. And I don't know. I've seen enough people just kind of joke about the 8 pick to Oklahoma City to try and do a sign and trade for Paul George. Is that likely? No. That said, if it comes down to it, if OKC is about to lose him for absolutely nothing, do they consider it? I mean, and because Cleveland, or all the reports were saying that LeBron wanted Paul George in Cleveland to begin with. So I think I guess that's mainly like my thing. I don't know exactly what else they would trade and whatnot.
Well, I guess first they would have to. Sorry to cut you off. They'd have to ask. They'd have to talk with and converse with Paul George to opt in, right, to his player option, which I guess is beneficial for him because then he can enter that 7 to 9 or 9 to 10 year full max range. So in that sense, it kind of has some legs because it does benefit Paul George to opt in that respect and gain more coming out of it. Maybe LeBron's like, yeah, let's just do one more year, take this trade on, and et cetera, et cetera. But I guess like you said, it would take a lot of maneuvering to make that happen, including telling Paul George, don't test the free agent waters, opt into your contract, and we're going to trade you over there, So, but it is kind of scary. So
it would be an absolute just troll job just to both of them go there for a year and then just go the next year. Oh man, just to kind of like that extra screw to Dan Gilbert. Like you don't have the 8th pick, and now you don't have either of the your 2 stars anymore. And you previously traded Kyrie, so you're definitely screwed. Oh man, I would get to laugh a lot of that, but
that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah.
No, I think we're all in agreement. Like it's just so much to go on.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask both of you guys. I think it's sort of a worry of Laker fans. If LeBron did come, do you guys think the Lakers would clear out young guys immediately, or do you think it would be a select number of them? Will be none of them? Clayton, we'll start with you. If LeBron and Paul George both come, do Magic and Pelinka just clean house?
I don't think they clean house because they do realize the value of those cost controlled assets.
Yeah.
My question then is how many are they going to deal? I think they hold on to Lonzo as tight as they possibly can. Just because he's, that guy that can be a star without being a high usage guy. And he can just kind of, all of his strengths would just benefit everyone if they were to come here. I think you would see a good chance that Kuzma and Ingram are dealt, or at least one of them. If you could possibly see both of them offered for Kawhi if he doesn't accept the Supermax. Even if he did accept this, like he's like, I want that Supermax, but I want out. I don't know. He wouldn't really have any power for that, but
the Spurs would have a ton of leverage in that situation.
Exactly. It wouldn't be it would just be, a weird one. But I think that would be a thing. My problem is Kawhi would be, if that's the case, Kawhi wants out, then you're doing the Paul George thing again of like, well, then they'll trade him somewhere else and then you actually have him. But I would try and like hold on to just one and make it like a Kuzma or an Ingram and then attach a couple other assets. I know that would be,
well, it's a low ball sort of,
it's a low ball and you can obviously go up, but I would try to hold on to as much of those guys as possible. But if you start, I know like merge in our chats and stuff, you always throw like Beal.
Yeah. Beal's that third guy that I go to pretty much immediately.
And let me look up Bradley Beal's contract. I think he's got only 2 more years. I think it might be 3. He's really good. I just don't know. Let me see real quick. Yeah, okay. He's got 3 after this. I guess it would be worth it for 2 guys. I just don't know if he's really that marquee guy. I don't know. He's definitely grown on me from our conversations that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
But he just, I don't know. I don't know how. Yeah.
This is a segue, but the number that stands out to me in this Bradley Beal contract thing is less the money, but I'm like, he's only 23?
Yeah, he's super young, man.
He's 20. It says 24 on here.
Yeah, 24. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. He's been in the league now. What?
6 years?
Yeah,
he was drafted at 18, I think. So, like, well, obviously, if he's 24 now, but yeah, that's. But I think that would be easier to stomach, especially like if it was Ingram and then Kuzma.
Yeah,
because Kuzma's going to be 24 this year, I believe, anyways. Because he was an older guy. No, he's going to be 23 in July. My bad. But I mean, so he's kind of just behind, and Beal is, I don't think it's arguable that he's better. So,
right.
I don't know. I could see two guys if they shipped off two of them for that third star, and then like a couple like future firsts. I think that would be okay. My thing is, and I said on the last podcast with Pete, I don't want to go through these last 6 years again. Like, or whatever, however many years. Like I've loved the draft. I love the young guys and all that, and it's always so much fun to go along with that. But then, LeBron is 33, and you never know with all those minutes if he's ever just like if it's gonna happen. We all know.
Yeah.
All talk about how he's a robot and everything. I guess, I mean, you can't be pessimistic in this situation except me, because I'm just a pessimist. But I think if you could just get away with two and then keep like Zoe and Hart
and Julius,
and Julius, yeah. In this whole scenario, I think you have to keep Julius.
Yeah,
that's just
the same boat.
But yeah,
Jonathan, same question for you.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared of the LeBron James reign and LeBron James complex taking over everything and overturning the entire organization and front office, et cetera, et cetera. But kind of like you said, I think and maybe I'm giving them too much credit, and I don't know. I just feel very confident about this front office. Obviously, they haven't really done anything yet, but I think just the moves that they've made to get to this point, including a very controversial one with trading D'Angelo Russell away. Now we kind of see, from a zoomed out perspective, what they were planning, what the landscape actually was like, the foresight behind everything. They probably also knew just how bad D'Angelo Russell's knees were, et cetera, et cetera. I have confidence that they'll be able to pitch this the right way to LeBron James. And my ideal scenario is, look, if we get LeBron James and Paul George, like all bets are off. I would not be surprised if they then traded whoever to get Kawhi Leonard, and out of the summer we have those big three and we're back. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. My best case scenario still, though, is if I was Magic or if I was Pelinka, I would pitch to them, hey, we've got LeBron James, we've got Paul George. You two are our main two stars, and we've got a promising young core on cost-controlled contracts. Let's, at the very least, take this next 3 months and see how it shakes out for the first part of the season, For me, I just want to see how they look. Because we don't want to be in a scenario where we prematurely trade these guys, and then, I understand if Kawhi's available, you just kind of got to do it, but he's going to be a free agent in 1 year.
I just don't think he's available. I've been saying that forever.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't know who in the right mind is going to turn down $217 million. Like, he's already had his contract now, I think was at 100 or slightly more. I think he took a bit.
He took a pay cut in 2015.
Yeah, it looks like it was about it was the 5 years, 100 million or whatever, but $217 million is a lot of money. Okay, 5 years, 94.3, blah, 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 blah. That's just a lot of money. He already has 94 million, and with his rookie contract, he's already made at least 100 million. But I just don't know who turns that money down. So.
Yeah, I mean, unless it really is as fractured, the relationship is as fractured as it seemed at times, then that's the only chance I see him declining it. But even then, I mean, how are you going to turn down the Spurs for as kind of chaotic the last couple of years have been for them? They're one of the steadiest franchises in like all of sports.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure. I think even under the hypothetical, let's say that, Clayton does somehow turn it down. Even in that scenario, I'd be like, he's going to be a free agent in 1 year. Let's at least see how the young guys look with LeBron James and Paul George. And what if for some reason, wow, it's not that crazy of an idea to think that we'd be better than the Warriors if everything shakes out, as is evidenced by that random year that Andrew Bynum came up and Kobe wanted to get traded, and all of a sudden we're still first in the West before Bynum goes down. Crazier stuff has happened. And in that scenario, if halfway through the season, LeBron James, Paul George, and the young gun Lakers are first in the West and are on pace for 60+ wins, at that point, you kind of just wait for 2019. And if you can't get Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson's available, et cetera, So my best case scenario is, let's say it's not Kawhi Leonard and we want to do the Bradley Beal thing. Let's wait till the trade deadline to pull off another let's get the third superstar move. Because for me, I just kind of want to see like tangibly how the young core looks with these two guys and what they can extract out of the young guys and vice versa. Because if you can do that, like Pelinka's been saying, then you can attack everything you do moving forward from this approach of we have assets that are cost controlled, that we own, and we can trade them at any time. And we have LeBron James and Paul George versus kind of already eliminating your options by trading for a superstar that will essentially just eat into more of your cap space, when essentially you could have everything. So
yeah, that's definitely getting those two, and then like trading away Dang with a couple of future first rounders and trying to re-sign Julius is like kind of what I want the most to happen. Yeah. I think that team could be a 55+ win team in the West next year and really compete. And like you said, if you don't get Kawhi, or there's Jimmy Butler out there, there's Klay Thompson out there, or you can just keep going with the team you have and just get more guys on the side to help those two out. So I definitely agree with like if they can't get Kawhi, just to wait it out and use the young guys approach.
And Jonathan said how the Warriors aren't invincible. I mean, they went 7 games with the Rockets.
They arguably should have lost the series.
So I mean, they were right there. And Paul George is, I think Paul George is about as good as CP3, maybe a little better, depending on what your likes and dislikes about him are.
Yeah.
And I mean, pretty much everyone is saying LeBron is still the best player in basketball. So I mean, that means he's better than Harden.
Yeah.
So then it's just matching up of rest of the guys, like it's just going to be a depth thing. And then we've seen it in the past with MDA, Mike D'Antoni, his bench just becomes non-existent and those guys get exhausted. So maybe you could match up with them in the playoffs or something. It just I think, I mean, I wouldn't obviously be super pissed if they get Kawhi. Kawhi's only 26. Kawhi,
I mean, he's the fourth best player in the NBA.
I had him number 3. Like, he's the top 3 NBA player. He's a guy that is going to be your best player on a championship team. Those 3 of the top 12 players, depending on how high you have Paul George. And, I always say that that everything is won by your wings. That's just me. So you have 3 of the very best wings out there. So yeah.
And then even being backed up by a Josh Hart and Lonzo and hopefully some guys that we'll talk about in a little bit from the draft, having those guys come from behind and just being really good role players. I mean, it like I said, crazier things have happened. I wouldn't be surprised if that team made a run with that sort of, even without Kawhi, with that sort of that core.
Yeah,
guys. If we get Kawhi Leonard, I'm trademarking right now the name "Count the Wings" podcast. Okay, Count the Wings.
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
yes. There it is.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. So this sort of segue into the draft. First question before we even go into, does the potential of LeBron and Paul George change your guys' boards at all, or is it just pretty much the same? They would have helped regardless if LeBron was there or not. Jonathan, first.
I think it's Kind of, but I think that's more based off of what the front office has been saying in interviews, including Pelinka's draft combine interview.
Yeah.
It seems like they're just looking for pretty much what they've been doing the last few years with that pick, but more so emphasizing the defensive end and interchangeability. Everything seems to be gearing towards whether or not LeBron James or Paul George comes, they see the future of the NBA, where it's headed, and they want to be like directly part of that. And it looks like they're looking for versatility, interchangeability on defense, on offense, pretty much mimicking that San Antonio Spurs, Golden State Warriors type style on both ends, where not only do they want a defender, but they want a guy who, if they can't shoot the lights out, then if you're not a 3-and-D guy, then you should be like a pass-and-D guy, if that makes sense. Like a playmaking guy who's smart, has high basketball IQ, and has some sort of vision.
Yeah, like Andre Iguodala type.
Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, like the Warriors have like two guys who essentially are very shaky shooters, but because they can attack closeouts, because they can dribble and play make, it kind of doesn't matter. They're still able to bend the defense. And so I think that's where guys like, D'Anthony Melton come into play, obviously. So I think in that sense, it seems like the Lakers are honing in on guys who, if LeBron James and Paul George come in a worst case scenario and we have injuries, just throw this guy out there to hustle and play defense. We've seen guys like Jordan Bell make an impact in the playoffs, and Kevon Looney, just because they're active, and they know how to play defense, So I think they're looking for guys like that who in a pinch, they can kind of throw out there and they won't hurt the team, but also someone who has some upside potential as well, and they can continue to mold. So I think that's why, and maybe this is like revealing my hand a little bit. I think that's why, as intriguing as a guy like Eli Okobo is, I don't know if they necessarily draft a guy like that who the offense is tantalizing and all that stuff, but in year 1, year 2, is he really going to be able to contribute? Because then you have to factor in, with regards to offense, there's dealing with the hiccups. Is his shot going to translate? Is he going to make the right decisions offensively? Versus a guy who, we know he's solid defensively and can at the very least play team defense and harass somebody and use all their fouls up, So, yeah.
Yeah. Clayton, are you of the same mindset?
Before we get into guys, I guess my main thing is if you get those two, you're definitely looking for shooters just to be able to continue to spread the floor. And you want guys that aren't a defensive liability. So I guess that's pretty much he hit the nail on the head. But I think you factor in shooting just a little bit more. Yep,
that's fair.
Yep. So with that being said, let's transition into possibly the best shooter in the draft, and Kevin Huerter, who has gotten a crazy amount of helium since the draft combine. Lakers Twitter has fallen in love with him ever since Jonte Porter has fallen off the map. So Jonathan, what do you like about Kevin Huerter?
I like his size first and foremost. I think size separates average shooting guards from really good shooting guards to great shooting guards. I think he's gotten like Wayne Ellington comps before, and Wayne Ellington has been a very serviceable player, especially this year with Miami, obviously, being able to be a guy that can just come off screens, whether or not his legs are swinging and hit shots. Shout out to former Laker Wayne Ellington, by the way.
Who I would have no problem bringing him back in next year.
Sure, for sure. But I mean, I think even what separates Kevin Huerter from Wayne Ellington is he's got 3 inches on him. He adds a little bit more playmaking to his game. Pretty solid rebounder. I think outside of the shooting, which he's a knockdown guy, he can shoot it from 35 feet easily. Is his all-around game. He can play make in a pinch. He can probably run a very solid and easy pick and roll. He can get the rebound and lead the break if you want him to. And the ways that he's able to easily get his shots off and really quickly is pretty amazing. All that stuff that KCP likes to do, where half his body hasn't, aligned itself yet. Huerter does that, but that's like a normal shot for him. That's 40% of the time it's going to go in. Where KCP, it's just like, that's not a shot you should be taking, Yeah. So I think that's why Kevin Huerter is so intriguing. Especially on a team with like LeBron James and Paul George, you just give him a role, stand in the corner, or come off a screen and hit this shot on the wing. And in a pinch, if the defense is running at you because they know you're such a good shooter, can you attack a closeout? And Kevin Huerter can attack a closeout, So at the very least, he seems like a guy who's very heady and can contribute right away. I don't think he'll be like necessarily Mike Miller off the bat, but can he approximate what Joe Harris did for the Nets this year? Sure.
Yeah.
And I've used that Mike Miller comp for him before. At his ceiling, I can easily envision, especially if he bulks up and gets stronger, him becoming that sort of Mike Miller all-around guy who gets like 5 rebounds a game, maybe 2.5, 3 assists. And
that's the guy LeBron would love too.
Yeah. No, exactly. You pitched that to him. We got Kevin Huerter, the next Mike Miller. We'll have him grow his hair out and put it in a headband and everything, whatever you want.
He'll lose his shoes in the
exactly. We'll do anything. So I think that's why I'm very intrigued by Kevin Huerter. Unfortunately, Woj said something about, he probably got a promise from Utah. Initially, we thought it was us because he shut down his workouts with Utah, but I'm kind of fading him right now just because I don't want to get my hopes up for it or anything like that. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, Kevin Huerter would have been an easy fit for the Lakers, a seamless fit. And who knows, maybe they will trade up for him if, I don't know, they add Zubats or Thomas Bryant. I don't know. But yeah, he would have been an easy fit with the Lakers, regardless of whether or not LeBron James or Paul George comes.
Yes, 100%. Clayton, you've talked a lot about Huerter on the pod. So if you want to swoon it anymore.
Yeah, he's just my boy, and I would happily trade up to get him. I've got him like right on the edge of the lottery, so like that 13 to 16 range, and I would have no problem going up higher for him. I just how Jonathan said, he's just like a seamless fit. It would be really funny to see a ginger running around the court like that too. And oh man, Josh Hart, Zoe, and Ingram and Kuz would all just, all the no souls for ginger jokes and everything like that. But yeah, he's the guy I really want, because as I said in the last podcast, you only have those elite shooters maybe once a draft, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think that could be him. I think that in just a couple of years, he could be a top 5 3-point shooter. Mm-hmm. I see like just a Kyle Korver that is 2 inches shorter, like just in that lethality of shooting, that's, yeah, it's going to suck that when he gets picked higher. I wish he didn't get the helium, but that's definitely the guy that I would zero in, no matter really who is there, other than, the guys I have someone like in the top 10. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I'd happily trade up to get him.
Yeah, I agree. He's a guy I really like too. He's probably my second or third favorite option at that point. Moving on to a guy who is kind of like the opposite of Huerter in a way. Clayton, we'll start with you since you're sort of iffy on him. Anthony Melton. Has anything changed over the few days? Have you watched any more film on him? Has any of the jumper videos on Twitter changed anything for you?
Ooh, that jumper video.
I know. As I said with Pete, you just never know with those jumper videos. Like, it's an open gym. Like, mm-hmm. I think a friend in the group chats, Mike at Canyon Driver was talking about, can he do that when he is tired? Mm-hmm. And if he can do that and make it when he's tired, then he goes up and I'm more confident. Problem is,
he's a lottery guy if he makes that jumper.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. My thing is just if he's not shooting, I don't know. Like, I've never quite got it with him. I think he's going to be an elite level defender. I don't know if I think it's going to be as like generational as some people have made it out to be, but yeah, I don't know. he's just, like, would I be mad at the pick? No, I'd be happy with it. It'd be a really solid pick. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know what he would do exactly on offense, because I don't really think of him as a great initiator. Mm-hmm. He's obviously got issues with the jump shot. Yeah, he could grab and go, but I mean, he's also 6'3". Mm-hmm. So like should be able to do that to begin with because he's a guard.
Yeah.
So it's just I wouldn't hate it. It's just, and I would be happy depending on who's on the board. Like if it was between him and Herter, I would definitely go after Herter. But I don't know. I might be the lone man out on that one.
Oh yeah. I mean, Clayton, you know how much I love him. So Jonathan, let's. What are your overall thoughts on Melton, and do you have any sort of counters to what Clayton has said?
Well, I'd be lying if I said that there's not some fight on Trojan pride going on here, Trojan bias, because I did go to USC. But I will say I was in line with Clayton's thinking when I first heard about this guy, saw his stats, and I was like, wait, what are we looking at here? Like he didn't play the last year. The one college year we're looking at, he averaged 8 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Oh, that's pretty good, about 2 steals. But outside of that, can he shoot? And I was like 28% from 3. What exactly are we looking at here? Yeah. And then I looked into the tape a little bit more, and I think as we've been describing in guys like Andre Iguodala or Draymond Green, and obviously these are unfair comparisons because they have longer wingspans, they're taller, etc. But if we're even leveling that down to guys like Marcus Smart or Avery Bradley, like a non-shooting Avery Bradley, for me, I'm pretty much just throwing shooting out the window entirely and just saying if it comes around, it's a cherry on top. Or if he ever becomes like an Andre, there's no way he's going to be as bad as Andre Roberson. No way. So even if he's that type of guy where Andre Roberson will hit 1 out of 4 open 3-point shots, you just see the impact that a guy like that can make just through his defensive intensity. I think the thing that sold me on DeAnthony Melton being more than just a Tony Allen type player, Andre Roberson type player, is the playmaking. And I think he's just a very heady, smart, high basketball IQ type of player. I don't think he'll make any flashy plays or anything like that, but I do think he has very good vision. And I really like the reads that he makes. He's very unselfish. Like Clayton kind of mentioned, he can get the rebound and push it up the court, makes very good plays in transition, makes the quick reads. So that I think it's the vision that really sold me on Melton, and being able to make really nice, crisp passes, the likes of which, we wish D'Angelo Russell did more of. So for me, I think the fact that he has that playmaking ability to him, and you'd hope that he'd be able to utilize that in a guard variety, the way that Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green have learned to do, or even the way that Sean Livingston has, right? Sean Livingston always had amazing vision. I'm not saying DeAnthony Melton has that point guard type of vision, but I think he does have very good vision and get very good playmaking chops to his game that I think he'll be able to find a way to contribute offensively in that respect and get the ball moving. And if his jumper just comes around, then that's a cherry on top. But I think most of his utility will come from, being the defensive engine that gets the Lakers leaking out, and then him being like a transition partner for Lonzo Ball, whether he's the one making the pass or he's the one receiving. So I think that's the reason why I like Melton. I wish he had like a 7-foot plus wingspan and all that stuff. Yes. But from everything I've seen, his motor doesn't quit. Even when he's switched on big guys, he is really fighting down there for positioning. And I think that those are the types of guys that Rob Pelinka and Magic are looking for in terms of just, do they have that tenacity? Do they have that willpower? Do they have that character and all that stuff? The FBI stuff notwithstanding, but I think those are the reasons why I like DeAnthony Melton. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite comparison for him at like his peak was some sort of combo of Patrick Beverley and Marcus Smart. And if you can get that, that's a really, really good player. I mean, obviously Patrick Beverley is has better point guard skills than Melton does. I mean, he can run a actual pick and roll and hit a 3 right now. And, he gets into guys, but if you can have some sort of hybrid of those two off the bench, that's someone that's really valuable off the bench, and someone that I think can be sort of like a super role player in the future. I mean, and I get like why Clayton is sort of iffy on him, but I don't know. It's more of it's a bit of a biased thing for me because I've had my eye on him since last year, and I think he provides the part of defense that Lonzo's not great at the point of attack stuff. And he can help with guarding the Steph Curry type guys, the Damian Lillards, Chris Paul's, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think he's so important. Moving on, let's go to another one of Jonathan's guys, Melvin Frazier from Tulane. Now he's been a guy that since the combine has jumped a lot for a lot of people. I mean, the guy's a crazy freak athlete with insane measurements. That's normally the guy that Clayton, I know you would be all over him normally in most drafts. What do you see in Frazier, and where do you have him sort of as an option for the Lakers at 25? Clayton.
Oh, me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you were going with Jonathan there again.
No.
My bad. He's not really on my list for 25, to be honest. I know he's athletic. I know the measurables. I don't think he can handle as well as others seem to think he can. I don't trust the jump shot at all. I know he shot 38.5% this year from 3 on 3 attempts. But I mean, before that, his career 3-point shooter, for his freshman and sophomore year was at 28%. Really, I guess breaking down into, decimals and stuff, it's like 28%, really. Yeah. And his free throw shooting was not good either the first 2 years. And maybe he did take that jump, but I don't think the form's very good. Going back and looking at tape just to see, like, maybe I'm just wrong on the shot. Again, I'm not a shot doctor. I'm not, anything like that. Just a guy who likes to watch basketball. He misses a lot of open threes that, like, no one is around him, which just is like, they're bad misses. Like, it kind of reminded me of like Anthony Brown.
Oh God,
misses, like when no one was around, and you're just like, oh God, yes, he's gonna make this, and then just clank. And he just had a lot of those from what I saw. And I don't know. He's like, if the Lakers, kind of like how we've talked with like Ralph on Twitter, if the Lakers were to trade back from 25 to go to 30 and 34, I would love to pick him up then. I know that seems just kind of like a small line to cross, I guess. But with 25, I guess I'm trying to look for a guy that I can trust more. I do think that he could be like an Anthony Roberson type with a little bit better shooting. But I don't know how much better shooting. And I don't think the defense is as good as Anthony Roberson. There was a few times on defense that I saw that he wasn't as good as people were saying. He had a lot of moments like that. And of course, like, one of my favorite things of insane wingspans, he was able to swallow guys up. But I don't think it's quite as good as it's made out to be. He just, I watching it, kind of like with the craziness of like his shot and just how he sometimes, like, he's got a great motor, but sometimes I think the motor is, if this makes any sense, it's running too hot. And it, again, just me being negative, I guess, it goes to like Corey Brewer, how Corey Brewer can just be, that crazy person on the basketball court. And I think that he just, and some of the things can be corrected. Like, he over rotates quite a bit and things like that. That can be fixed. It's just, the main thing is I think that you want to walk away with at least one really good shooter in this draft, or it's at least someone that I think is going to end up shooting like league average this year. I think you want to try and at least walk away with someone like that this year. And I don't see him shooting 30% this year.
Right.
So I just, or really for several years. I just don't know if I ever see him as even just a bit below average. Like, I think 32% from 3 is all you're going to get. And I don't know if that's, I just don't know if I trust rest of the ball skills enough to think that's enough. Maybe I don't know. I think Jonathan is quite a bit higher on him than I am, but
should I jump in? Yeah, I think I'm high on him just because, and you mentioned Corey Brewer, and that's my very, very low baseline comp for him, but a better Corey Brewer. And people are going to laugh at that, but Corey Brewer, goddammit, scored 51 points off transition layups, dunks, and lobs. You know what I mean? And Melvin Frazier can do that too. And I'm already calling him a better Corey Brewer. And, people are going to joke about Corey Brewer, but I mean, even with the Lakers at times and the way that OKC used him at how old is he? Like 30 plus something. He still has utility as a guy who can kind of like shake things up and, be a transition guy and a cutter and all that stuff. And I imagine Melvin Frazier, if you can get him on that foundational level and mold him correctly, I feel like he could be at the very least, a useful player eventually. And I think most of that, Clayton's put the emphasis on shooting, which, I agree with, especially if you're going to get Paul George and LeBron James. So for me, with these guys that can't shoot well, what I'm looking at is, okay, if they can't shoot well, I'm just going to, if their jump shot is even just a little bit questionable, I'm just going to throw that out of my mind entirely. Mm-hmm. And then next I'm going to find, okay, if they can't shoot at all, then what aspects of their game mitigates that fact? And for DeAnthony Melton, for me, it was like the playmaking, the defense, and the all-around sort of game, right? Mm-hmm. For Melvin Frazier, it's the dynamic athleticism. This guy's like throwing down windmills in game situations. It's the crazy length, 7'3", 7'2", and the fact that, does he? I feel like he swallows up people. Maybe he doesn't do it all the time, but the moments that I've seen where he's defending guys, and defense is more than just man basketball. Can he play good team defense, etc.? But in terms of, even just impeding a guard from getting in the lane, even if he gets beat, his long ass arms are just able to compensate for that. And the way that he moves his feet as well, along with those arms, when his wingspan is just stretched out there, it's kind of scary, So I think the high end comp that I have for Melvin Frazier would be like a Josh Howard type. And I mentioned it on Twitter as well, just because they have the exact same measurements. They have the exact same body build, kind of super scrawny. And I think Melvin Frazier even does that thing where he was wearing the wristband on one of his wrists. Yeah. So it's very Josh Howard-esque, especially even in the way, most especially that his shooting mechanics look. Josh Howard was never like a really good 3-point shooter. And coming into the league, he was like 30%, 29%, random jumps here and there.
Josh Howard was according to like the college basketball version of Basketball Reference, he was a 35% 3-point shooter.
Right, which is a lot better than Melvin Frazier's random jump, right? But even just in terms of like NBA and whether he was considered like quote unquote a shooter, he never was, So for me, Melvin Frazier, if he's able to be developed correctly and he does gain a jump shot, a somewhat decent jump shot that people have to respect, then that's where I could see him going. I do agree with Clayton that on offense, he's very erratic in terms of, the high intensity. Sometimes that's just way over the top. And I think you see that in the fact that how many turnovers he gets, how loose his handle looks sometimes. He did get 2.9 assists this past year at Tulane, right? But he got 2.6 turnovers to that, right? So can you shore that in? Can you rein that in? And I think most of my confidence comes in our coaching staff, our player development staff, and Luke Walton. And I think with a guy with this much high upside and athleticism, I mean, this is a guy that Lonzo could really use, just throw it up to the sky and he'll catch it for a lob, or have him cut on the baseline while he learns how to shoot in his first 2 years in the league, just use him as a cutter, a lob guy, all those plays that they have for, used to be Larry Nance and Brandon Ingram off those curls and out of timeout plays. That'll be Melvin Frazier. But most of all, use him as like a defensive specialist. His percentages this last year are so wonky. The fact that he shot 56% from the field, I don't know where that comes from, because it's like comes out of nowhere, right? Because the last year he was only 44%. Yeah. But I mean, just the fact that he made those jumps is encouraging. And I was watching his performance at the draft combine, and he seems like a guy that knows how to use his length already, just because he's so ridiculously long. I think some of the ways in which we've seen Brandon Ingram knife into the lane and find the angles with which to, just flip up a shot because he's so long, Melvin Frazier has that capacity right now. And even though his handles are shaky, he does have a little bit of shake to him, a little bit of crossover dribbles, and he does know how to get into the lane and then find those angles and use his arms and length to flip up shots. So I think that's encouraging. And then on top of it, he can just dunk over people, So I'm not saying the handle will ever be shored up or anything like that, but
Right.
he, even in his draft combine video, it seemed like he was a guy who could make pretty easy and simple reads as well. So he's not entirely a black hole. It's just, can you rein all of that potential and energy in to make him like a useful player? I think that's the biggest question. But in terms of like all the dynamic upside in terms of athleticism, defensive potential, I think that's why I'm a little higher on him than Clayton is, regardless of whether or not the jump shot ever comes around. You know, I think a guy who can run the break and can actually lead or initiate that break with his defense, whether it's getting out into the passing lanes, getting crazy blocks and getting rebounds, I think that's a valuable asset to have next to Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, I definitely see the intrigue for sure. I'm glad you brought up someone for Lonzo to lob to, because the Lakers sort of lack that kind of vertical lob threat on the team. I mean,
Definitely. I agree.
Julius is a great athlete, but he isn't a guy who's going to go up and dunk off lobs. And Ingram is super long, but he's not a guy that's jumping out the gym like Frazier does. So I definitely see the upside with Frazier. I think I'm like right in between you two. I think I have him like 28, 27 ish. And he wouldn't be a terrible pick for me. It'd be a solid guy for Lakers to pick up, but. Yeah. Moving on to a guy that I'm high on, and he was one of the bigger names out of college basketball, especially after March Madness, is Dante DiVincenzo. Jonathan, I don't know if you really got that much of a chance to check out Dante. Have you been able to watch him, and what have you been able to take from him?
You know, to be honest, not a lot. I have heard that he's very gritty. He's a gamer. Got his game face on. Even in spite of his size, you know, he always brings forth the effort, gets rebounds, really hustles. I've heard, you can correct me if this is wrong or not, but like it's kind of like a Jody Meeks type player. I think the reason why he's kind of like been down on my scouting is just because we were all honing on Kevin Huerter, and I was like, well, this guy's the better prospect for sure. So I don't feel like I need to spend that much time on Dante, but he may, I don't know if there's a chance that he'll slip to us with our second round pick, but no. I mean, just even having another option, like the poorer man's version of Kevin Huerter, I don't think would hurt, you know, if he can approximate,
no pun intended. Right?
Yeah, exactly. No, wouldn't hurt her. But if he can be like a Joe Harris type too, then I wouldn't mind that at all. You know, like the version of Nick Stauskas that worked out. Sure.
Yeah. I think my thing with Dante is that he's a guy that's not really afraid of the moment, and we saw that in March Madness. He's a guy that really just took it to some really good teams in college basketball, and I know this is the basic white guy comp, but he really is sneaky athletic, because that guy can get up. Like, he made a couple of really crazy blocks in the tournament.
It's like Grayson back in the day.
Yeah, like Grayson when he was coming into college. He's the guy that I've seen him go vertical a couple of times and just snatch blocks. And I like the jumper more than some other people do. We've had comparisons where we've had him and Melvin Frazier and Josh Okogie, and I'm higher on Dante than those three because the Josh Hart connection. I think him and Josh have the chemistry already. I think Dante is a guy that you can give the ball to just score. Because I've seen some off ball stuff, some off the dribble scoring. He's had off screens and spot up threes like that. Someone brought up the comp of like Tyler Johnson from the Heat. A guy who just makes the right plays, and he's a guy that you can play like at the end of the game, someone who you can trust in those clutch moments. And he wasn't the best defender in college, but he's a guy that really just got after it. He's a guy that really gets into the defenders. He's 6'5" with like a 6'8" wingspan, so it's a decent size for a two guard. He's not undersized, it's kind of average. It's kind of similar to
Dante's actually 6'4.5" in shoes and with a 6'6" wingspan.
Okay. He kind of is.
He sometimes seems longer though on film.
Yeah. The athletic build is sort of similar to like a more athletic Alex Caruso. I have to compare it to a little. It's used the white on white comparison, but I don't know. He's just a guy that I see in those late game situations, and he shows up in those big moments along with all the skills that I mentioned as well. Clayton, do you have any thoughts on Dante?
I wouldn't hate the pick. I like him.
Just no tweeting the N-word.
Yeah, no more tweeting rap lyrics.
Chill.
Yeah, chill on that. I mean, he shot 40% from 3 on 5 attempts a game. Free throw percentage, he was only 71%, but it was only on 2.7 attempts per game, so that was kind of like a wash, really, in my opinion on that. He can play make a little bit. He can do some things on defense, obviously, and rebound. So, I wouldn't hate the pick. I mean, he's kind of like what I thought Grayson was a few years ago. Before I just not even really the tripping. I just don't think Grayson. I think Grayson stopped getting better after his sophomore year. So I think like he peaked his sophomore year, and obviously Dante took yet another step this year. Freshman year, he didn't really play, but then last year he played in 36 games, 25.5 minutes a game. This year, a little bit more, almost 30 minutes a game, and shooting 40% from 3 and 48.1% from the field. Just filling up the stat sheet a little bit. So I mean, as a bench guy, because I don't think he's ever going to be a starter.
No.
Which honestly at 25 is also fine. I think I have a bit of faith in him just becoming at least a decent rotation player. So I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, he's not really a high upside guy. He's a guy that has a high floor more than anything.
Yeah, unless you think the shooting just takes yet another step.
I mean, he showed some good signs from the shooting side, and I mean, and if he can add some more off the dribble scoring, like not off screen, just spot ups, then that will add a little bit of a dynamic to it. Yeah. Last couple guys I'll talk about, they're both sort of in the same boat. Is Anthony Simons and Mitchell Robinson. Jonathan, were you able to look at the high school mixtape stuff for any of these guys, and how are you like? How do you sort of evaluate these guys?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they're categorized together just because they're two guys who have a little mystery surrounding them because they didn't play college basketball the last year. Yeah. They opted not to. For Mitchell Robinson, who knows why? For Anthony, is it Simons or Simmons?
Yeah, it's Simons. I thought it was Simmons. I've heard people say Simons before.
Okay, so for Anthony Simons, there may be some reasoning behind him just wanting to get right into work and just focusing on the draft, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, I mean, both of them, I'll start with Anthony Simons, who the Lakers worked out today. And apparently he did really well in his workouts, not only shooting wise, but mobility wise, which is good to hear because, I mean, his biggest problem right now would be, I think he's slight of frame, even though he's catching bodies on these posters and whatnot, which is incredible. Yeah. But right now he does need to work on his body. You know, he's very, very scrawny. And there's nothing he can do about his face because he looks like he's 14, but that's fine. But he's a very dynamic player. You know, he is... Maybe along with Zaire Smith, is that how you say?
Oh, that's my guy. Don't even Zaire Smith. Yeah. I got
so you. Maybe along with him, he's probably like the most explosive guard out of this draft. You know,
I don't think he plays as explosive as he tested.
And that's fair because a lot of the video you see
it's a lot of like off the dribble scoring.
Yeah. And real quick, sorry to interrupt again. We've talked about this in a group chat that we have, and people bring up how like is he like a Monte Ellis where he's just a bad shot taker and he just has made them, and another person countered with, well, maybe he's just taking those shots because he can make them, you know, and you know, in high school a lot of times you're not thinking, you know, like what's the most efficient way to score. It's like, hey, I'm gonna just rise up over this guy and pop a 3 right in your face, like you're just gonna make you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth on him. Sorry, Jonathan, you keep going ahead.
No, I mean, to your point though, it's tough to evaluate when he hasn't played against, you know, college players or even just NBA potential players in college. So yeah, the questions like that will arise. I think But I also think that's why he's even in the range that the Lakers are at. You know, if all these things were shored up and we knew certainties about these questions, then yeah, he's a lotto pick because of his dynamic athleticism, him being a 3-level scorer. His shot looks wonky to me. There's a very low release point, but it goes in, at least in, in the level that he's played at. He's able to hit the 3 off screens. He's able to hit the mid-range jump shot. He's able to drive it into the lane, do all these crazy reverse layups and post or jam on people. So I think that's where the upside comes from. And I think he's only 18, right? Going to be 19.
Yeah, turns 19 like tomorrow, I think.
Okay, so he's 19, but he's still like one of the youngest players in this draft. So I think, so I think that's where all the upside comes from. And the fact that he did well in his workout is great. I mean, the Lakers, I'm sure, will suss out whether the guy has any character issues or delve into why he decided to skip 1 year of college, and they'll make that decision for themselves. But I mean, if they make that pick right there, I would be excited because I assume that the Lakers really check this guy out and they see something in him that if they just are able to mold and hone him, that could be very special. I kind of threw it out there like, okay, he's very flashy and very exciting. What is he, like 6'4", 6'5" or so?
It says that he's 6'3" and a quarter in shoes.
Okay, so he's 6'3" and a quarter in shoes, and maybe he'll grow a little bit more because he's only 19. But maybe he's just a J.R. Smith at the end of the day with his crazy athleticism. But I think a J.R. Smith that has the right fundamentals from day one and the right organization to bring him along is a really good player. That's funny that we're talking about J.R. Smith because we just saw such a terrible example of J.R. Smith gone wrong, right? But a good version of that in the best timeline.
Nuggets J.R.
Nuggets J.R. Right? Without all the mental stuff going on too. So but I think that's why Anthony Simons is such an intriguing prospect. And like I mentioned to you guys before we started recording, guys like Anthony Simons and Mitchell Robinson, they're such wild cards in this draft because they give the Lakers an opportunity, if they so happen to fall in that range, to maybe take a swing at 2 guys who in other years may have been lotto picks if they had taken more conventional routes. You know what I mean? So it's up to the Lakers to suss out whether or not why they took those unconventional routes, and because if they did that because they were hiding something about their game or their character, et cetera, et cetera. But if the Lakers decide to make that move, then I don't know. As a Laker fan, I'd be excited to question whether or not we got a lotto pick at number 25, considering we lost our lotto pick this year. So
yeah, for sure. I'm with you when you're saying that if the Lakers do draft them, there's obviously they've done their homework, and the Lakers are when they know who they're drafting, and they've done a really good job at it the last 4 or 5 years. So, and then Mitchell Robinson, do you hold him like to a higher sort of value than Simons, or is he just again in the same boat?
He's interesting too, just because of him providing Lonzo Ball with that. And so far, Lonzo Ball hasn't had this type of player, right? He hasn't had his Tyson Chandler, his lob guy, or he hasn't had his DeAndre Jordan. And we've seen guys like that can just elevate. I mean, Chris Paul had Tyson Chandler when he was with the Hornets, and then he had DeAndre Jordan.
And then he has Capella.
Then he has Capella, right? And then even a guy, I mean, this is like Jeremy Lin when he was with New York, he had Tyson Chandler, right? And just even having that option outside of the fact that D'Antoni was his coach, I mean, it just allowed Jeremy Lin to flourish a little bit more, you know what I mean? So I feel like Lonzo could really use that type of player and that safety valve to kind of just throw it up into the air, because those are the types of plays Lonzo likes to make anyways, those types of passes. But this year it's kind of been more pitch outs to like Brook Lopez for 3, which is fine, but it would just help him out a lot more if he's able to drive. And there's also another option there to throw the ball to. So I think Mitchell Robinson, his length and measurements are crazy. He's 7'4". I don't know if he's actually 7'1", but he looks lanky and he looks super tall. I know Pete mentioned on your podcast that his motor is just not there yet in terms of outside of the fact that he can run the floor really well. Yeah. But that seems to be more in spurts. So that's something that he'll definitely have to come around on with regards to his conditioning. But I mean, at the next level in the NBA, they also have to shape his body. And given the fact that he hasn't played a year of college basketball where he gets that sort of round the clock care and those trainers and stuff, I feel like he'd be able to shore those things up in the NBA. They could slowly work on his body, slowly work on his conditioning. But yeah, I think he's tantalizing because how athletic he is. He's literally above the rim on almost every play I've seen.
Yeah, he's an elite athlete.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting up for sure.
And I think what encourages me too is that he's played against the likes of Mo Bamba and Aiton, you know, in AAU play and all that, and McDonald's All-American, and he's fared well against those guys, you know. So he's not like a total unknown that we don't have any tape on him against, you know, potential NBA guys.
Yeah.
It would just be like, why did he flip-flop so many times on committing to a college? What has he been doing the last year? Is he just a wishy-washy type player? Does he have Robert Upshaw type mental problems? Who knows? Again, that's something that the Lakers will have to suss out. But if they don't see any red flags with his character and personality and medically, I don't know if he has any history with regards to that, I would be very tantalized with a guy like him, especially also too, because look, I mean, his jump shot does not look perfect. It doesn't look textbook, but there's definitely semblances there of functional jump shot at the very least. And that's more you can say for a guy like DeAndre Jordan. So
yeah, 100%. I think the biggest things with him are the off-court stuff, the mental stuff, why he did the whole, I'm going to Western Kentucky, I'm not going to Western Kentucky, I'm going to go to Kansas, no, I'm not going to go to Kansas, and then not playing I think those are the biggest thing to suss out as compared to like Simons. I think Simons was just a guy who went to prep school and he went an extra year there, and he was able to go to the NBA as fast as he could. With Robinson, it's like I think he's the higher upside guy, but he also I think has more of a bust potential just because he might be a head case. We don't know.
Yeah.
Clayton, do you have any thoughts on those two or no?
Simons is interesting. He's, like I said, he's only 6'3.25", but he's got like a 6'9.5" wingspan.
Yeah, he's long.
So he's really long. Like I said, I don't know. Like, he tested really well athletically. I don't know how he actually plays with that. Yeah, he does the posters and stuff from time to time, and I know he did well in the lane agility and just all that, but it's kind of hard to just scout off of like a mixtape, because of course it's going to all be things that make a guy look really good, and I don't have any access to any other stuff for him, so he's a bit of a question mark. Obviously I wouldn't hate having him. I think if you're getting him, that is when I want to do like a couple of some of the bigger guys that you want are off the board, and that's definitely you're doing the 30 and 34 or whatever for 25, and you know, something like that, and doing like a Simons. And I'm still ridiculously high on Hamidou Diallo. I'd risk it.
That'd be high for Hamidou, man.
I know. I'm just still high on him. Anyways, I know that's probably about 5 picks earlier than I normally would, but if we go back to like Melvin Frazier, that athletic, dynamic guy to catch lobs, because I've got Diallo top 40. Yeah. So it wouldn't really, once you get to the second round, and like from 31 to 45 is just kind of like a whole bunch of just
a lot of talent there.
Yeah, there's a lot of talents there still. So you're just kind of looking for the minor differences. So like that's something that I would really look to do with if you're honing in on Simons, because I think that he could probably last till 30. He's either going to go ridiculously high,
the Bucks,
like the Bucks, or he's going to drop really low because just not a lot of information on him. Mitchell Robinson, if you would have asked me this about 2 months ago, I would have had Mitchell in my top 14, so my lotto. And like the Stepien, as of a month ago, they still had him in there. His talent is, I know like some of our friends in our group chat aren't really big fans of him. Because of other basketball related issues. But I think the main thing with him for me is that mental aspect. Yeah, you could possibly be getting a guy that's a lottery talent, but if he is, who was the guy that Houston drafted from Iowa State? The guy with
Royce
White. Not that he's dealing with anxiety issues, but like that guy that just I guess it's probably a bad comparison. Okay, let me go with like a Whitehead or a Whiteside. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So like, obviously, Whiteside has. Sorry, I'm just spitting right now. Obviously, Whiteside has a lot of talent and he has a lot of athleticism and stuff, but he doesn't use it properly because he's a knucklehead.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no real debate on that. So like the thing with Mitchell is like, I think he hired an agent, I believe, but he's working out with like his uncle or something like that. He's not actually working out with any of these skills trainers, and he desperately needs that.
Yeah,
he desperately needs that because the shot looks functional to an extent. It's not great, obviously, but like the videos that say like he's got wing handles, I laugh at, because there was one that was going around quite a bit, especially when the rumors surfaced that he was going to, be a guy that they look at 25. It says like wing like handles, but then he bobbles the ball like 2 or 3 times in that little clip going against no one. So I was just like, like wing handles as in like Anthony Roberson handles, or like because that's not wing handles. Like 2 months ago, I'm on board. Now he's on the list, and I wouldn't hate it. It's just
a lot of question marks.
You're really gonna have to like drill into him, you know? Like you're gonna have to like almost like interrogate him.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and obviously not trying to be like in a negative way, but like especially with the politically correct nature that we're in.
Yeah.
But like you're gonna be making a multi-million-dollar investment in a kid, and if he's a knucklehead, then like that's a lot to risk in there. I mean, I know it's only 25, but I mean and if Lakers pick him, then I trust him. After Kuzma last year, I'm not going to bag on anyone anymore. Like I'm not doing it. So it just
they could draft Grayson Allen, and I wouldn't question it.
I don't know about that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like there is an extent to it. Okay, like Grayson Deckle. Oh my word!
I had to bring it up. I don't know.
Yeah, like I mean, okay, fine. There is a lot of guys that I would not have an issue with, but so I don't. Both of those guys would be fine options, I guess. I wouldn't be pissed at either because. At this moment, I have trust in the scouting department and the front office of being able to suss out that information. Has Robinson gotten in a workout with the Lakers, or was it?
No,
just in front
he hasn't had a workout with any team. It's only that workout in Vegas or wherever it was.
Yeah, so it was just that League One. Okay, so like the Lakers, Pete has kind of noticed like they put in a lot of attention on that Mamba drill or whatever it's called,
or the Laker mentality.
Yeah, whatever you want to
the
call
Mamba
it.
mentality drill. I mean, I'm sure Rob Pelinka calls it that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just like three defenders.
I think that's a pair of shoes as well. But like they're looking for guys that are able to produce while they're still tired, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to find that out about him.
Yeah. Especially with only like 15 days left to the draft,
Yeah. So I enjoy both of those guys. But I would just be a little bit more hesitant than I would with some others. So well, okay, Jonathan, who would be, if you haven't said it on your podcast, I'm like just backed up on podcasts right now, so I don't know if you've said who exactly you like, but is there a person that you've like completely honed in and that is the guy that you want at 25, or like for me, like if the Lakers were to even trade out for Herter, like is there a guy like that for you?
Yeah, I think it would be tier 1 would be Herter and Melton. I think I have Melton just slightly higher than Herter because of the defensive potential and the ability to just throw him out there year 1 if need be. But it's close. After that, I think I would go, you know, you guys know this, but I've kind of grown a liking to Jerome Robinson, who for me, he is just such a smooth athlete. And I know this goes against everything that I feel like gut instinct wise the Lakers are going for in terms of just full defense all the time, hustle, etc. But I think sometimes you curtail that for if a guy is just so skilled offensively. And I think
he's a really good
Jerome
shooter.
Robinson is a really good shooter. And I threw out the Kroger brand Brandon Roy comp because mainly because his jump shot does look like Brandon Roy. It's very textbook. He's up and down, just pure jump shot. But also the 3-level ways he can score. He's a 3-level scorer, mid-range jump shot, floater, can drive it into the lane, is pretty crafty in the lane once he gets there. He is just like a multi-level scorer. His true shooting percentage this year was insane. I think he shot like, 50% from the field, 40 plus something percent from 3. Just ridiculous percentages all around. He's got a pretty good size to him, about 6'5" or so. And right now he's still kind of slight of frame, so even that he can work on. But I just really like how his feel for the game offensively. I know Clayton brought up before we started recording that you looked at his defensive synergy numbers and they weren't as bad as you thought. Obviously, that's a thing that he's going to continue to have to work on in the NBA. One thing that encourages me is that, one, he's not small, you know, so that he can work on his team defense. He can work on getting better in that aspect. And if a guy gets switched on to him, he's 6'5", you know, like he won't totally get eaten up. He won't get eaten up in comparison to guys like Eli Okubo, who's like 6'3", 6'2", or whatever. And you're like, that guy's going to get back down to hell, you know? So there's hope for him on the defensive end. But right now, I think his offense is just so tantalizing that, yeah, he's just very intriguing to me. And I don't know whether he's ever going to get a scheduled workout with the Lakers, but if he does, I'd be very intrigued by him. Has he worked out with the Lakers yet? Do you guys remember?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I can look in just a second. I've grown on him. Like I said before, for some reason, I just get a Clarkson vibe, and
yeah,
I mean that could be totally just me wary of him. I don't know. But looking at the true shooting, my goodness. Talk how you said like he was really good. It was about 61% this year for a guard. That's stupid. That's a lot. Yeah, per 100 possessions, he was shooting 23.2 times. So that's a lot.
Yeah,
his usage was even high at 27.3. The thing is that's a almost 10% jump from true shooting percentage from last year. And I mean, that could just be natural progression, you know, like again with Frazier, like I will be happy to be wrong if he turns into a really good shooter. And I do think that Robinson will be a good shooter. So like he's the one guy, I guess, that we hadn't really talked about that he's a little lower on my list compared to some others, but if you're looking for some scoring punch off the bench, and I think our friend Mike Garcia at Canyon Driver he would know more about like handles than I would. I don't think he's a bad ball handler. I think he could have some backup point guard potential right there.
Yeah. And, by the way, he has not worked out with the Lakers.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think he had. He's definitely a guy that has risen on my board though. So
yeah, he's a guy that like I can completely see like the Warriors drafting or something and them turning into like someone their next great shooter or something like that. Yeah, he's a guy I need to look into a little more because I just sort of start hearing about him a lot the last few days. So I don't really have a formed opinion on him yet, but I'll take you guys' word for it when it comes to the shooting and stuff like that.
One thing I will say is since we are looking, obviously, as I said, we should be looking for shooters. I trust him as a player more than like Shamet, who I am.
Yeah, Shamet.
I am much lower on Shamet than everyone else. Like I know he was like an elite shooter this year, but he's so thin, and I don't think he
the disparity with the wingspan too.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of him. I don't think maybe the team defense will be okay, but I just I don't know. I do not like him. Like, I don't like Shamet. Like, if he dropped to like 47, jump on that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've got Shamet probably like 40 to 47. But like, if you're talking 25, I'm like, oh, that's very questionable.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry, if to just jump in one last time with Jerome Robinson. I think the thing that I like about him most is just he just seems like a guy with just great feel. He's a very fluid player, and Clarkson. I feel like even though he was dynamic and exciting when he was with what was his last name? Missouri? Was he with Missouri?
Yeah, when he was at Mizzou. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he was just always a way more erratic sort of player. And I feel like just Jerome Robinson, like one, you can trust his shot way more than you can Clarkson's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know why I get that vibe from him, but I don't know.
That's fair. But I think Jerome Robinson overall, it should quell your concerns because he just coming off screens, whether he can attack closeouts with his own dribble and pull up for that really clean mid-range jump shot. He can do all of those things. And not to throw these guys' names in your heads, but like it's very Devin Booker-ish, Bradley Bealish, all those types of guys. Maybe at his low end, maybe you get a Marcus Thornton type player who's just a really good scorer. But like you said, off the bench, right? Maybe he could just turn into that type of guy. And right now, I just like his size. So maybe even that's what separates him from. If he's a legit 6'6" or 6'5", then that separates him from the Marcus Thorntons of the world and whatnot. And he's not bad athletically either, because I've seen him throw down some pretty nasty jams in the lane. So
I saw that video you posted a couple days ago of him. Some dude.
Yeah, he's 6'5".
Sort of breaking news. It looks like the Sixers are going to keep Colangelo.
Okay.
Oh, have fun with that.
Yeah, they're. So according to a trusted source, they're holding out hope that Colangelo can keep his job.
So that source probably Adam Silver, trying to make sure like the whole front office that he put into place doesn't explode.
Yeah. Which burner account is that?
Oh, I know. Right? That is hilarious. Hey, that might be better for the Lakers, to be honest. If he's still there,
Yeah.
Man. Anyway, we're end that here. Jonathan, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Third time I think we've had you on.
Yeah.
Pod. And we'll definitely continue it. Hopefully we can get you on during or after free agency so we can react to hopefully LeBron James and Paul George being Lakers and Julius Randle staying and everyone being happy.
It's not a hope, my friend. It is a certainty. So I will be on then. No, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a lot of fun. And I think I'm just, so excited picking up momentum as we race towards the draft and then free agency right after that. It's fun to talk basketball and Lakers because we are set up so well. And honestly, we're playing on house money. So
100%. If you go ahead and push anything, if you have any recent podcasts, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. You can catch us on Twitter at Lakers Legacy Pod. You can catch me personally at JHUN88. Lakers Legacy Podcast. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, et cetera, et cetera. Our last podcast was with Cole Zwicker, so check that out. We kind of did like a 2018 NBA draft crash course for the range that the Lakers are in. So make sure to check that out. And maybe we'll have some future guests on as well. And our future episodes will just be continuing to delve deeper into the NBA draft and more off-season talk and whether or not those two things will continue to weigh on each other. So check us out. Lakers Legacy.
Awesome, man. Clayton, do we have anything coming up on the site?
I know Nelson, RIP Nelson, has talking about a return. He's supposed to be having a player profile coming out. My schedule is finally opening up with the school ending, so looks like I should have hopefully a piece or two coming up here sometime this week as well, and along with some of our writers. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, and remember to follow the podcast / blog at Under the Best Pod. You can follow me at Merge Christian, and you can follow Clayton at Lakers 1949. And again, go ahead and follow Jonathan on his personal account and on the podcast account. Again, thanks for coming on, Jonathan, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.
Yeah, for sure. Later.